Zara's forearms moved gracefully through the morning routine, her pale blue skin catching the early sunlight that streamed through the kitchen windows. She had been married to Marcus for 6 months now, and still marveled at how different their morning rituals were. While she prepared the nutrient paste that sustained her Veltar physiology, Marcus stood at the stove, cooking something he called eggs in a metal pan. The human was quiet, as always. When they first met at the interspecies trading post on Kepler Station, Zara had been drawn to his calm presence among the chaos of merchants and travelers. Most humans she'd encountered were loud, boisterous creatures who gestured wildly when they spoke. Marcus was different. He spoke softly, moved with deliberate precision, and had eyes that seemed to see everything while revealing nothing. Crops are looking good this season, Marcus said, his voice carrying that same steady tone he used for everything from discussing the weather to proposing marriage. He'd done both with equal composure. Zara nodded, watching him through the window as he had earlier walked their property. The farm stretched across 200 acres of rich soil on the colony world of Haven's Rest. It was a peaceful place, far from the major trade routes and political centers that dominated galactic news. That's what had attracted her to Marcus's proposal, the promise of a simple life away from the complications of interspecies politics that had defined her career as a diplomatic translator. The Terran wheat is adapting well to the soil composition, she replied, using her secondary arms to organize the day's schedule on her datapad while her primary hands continued food preparation. The mineral supplements you suggested have increased the yield by 12%. Marcus smiled, a small expression that Zara had learned to treasure. Human emotional displays were subtle compared to the elaborate color changes and pheromone releases that marked Veltar feelings. She'd had to learn to read the tiny movements of his facial muscles, the way his shoulders shifted when he was amused or concerned. After breakfast, they walked the fields together. This was their daily routine, checking the irrigation systems, monitoring the growth of various crops, and planning the day's work. Marcus moved through the rows with the confidence of someone who understood the land intimately. He'd been farming here for 3 years before Zara arrived, building the operation from nothing. What struck her as unusual was how Marcus seemed to notice everything. Not just the obvious things, a broken irrigation line or pest damage, but subtle details that Zara's enhanced Veltar senses sometimes missed. He would pause at seemingly random spots, kneel down, and examine the soil with his bare hands. Often he would find problems that wouldn't become apparent to automated systems for days. "How do you do that?" Zara asked one morning, watching him identify a mineral deficiency in a section of crops that looked perfectly healthy to her eyes. Marcus shrugged, wiping dirt from his fingers. "Experience, I guess. You learn to pay attention to small changes." But it was more than that, Zara thought. She had worked with agricultural specialists from a dozen different species, and none of them had Marcus's intuitive understanding of growing systems. It was as if he could sense the health of the land itself. Their nearest neighbors were the Hendersons, a human family who lived 10 kilometers away. When they visited for dinner last week, Zara noticed how Bill Henderson, a veteran farmer with 40 years of experience, deferred to Marcus's opinions about crop rotation and soil management. It seemed odd that someone with Marcus's apparent expertise would choose to operate such a small farm in such a remote location. The colony of Haven's Rest was home to about 8,000 beings from various species. Most were farmers, crafters, or small business owners seeking a quieter life away from the bustling core worlds. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where conflicts were settled over coffee rather than in courts, and where the biggest excitement was usually the annual harvest festival. Marcus fit into this community perfectly. He was respected but not prominent, helpful but not intrusive. When the Johnson family's farm equipment broke down during harvest season, Marcus appeared with tools and expertise to fix it. When the colony's water purification system developed problems, Marcus somehow knew exactly which components needed replacement. But he never took credit or sought recognition for his help. Zara found herself wondering about Marcus's life before Haven's Rest. He rarely spoke about his past, deflecting questions with gentle humor or by changing the subject to something about their current life together. She knew he had served in the Terran colonial forces. He'd mentioned it once when explaining why he understood alien physiology well enough to modify their home's environmental systems for her needs. But he'd given no details about his service record or why he'd left the military for farming. Sometimes late at night when she thought he was sleeping, Zara would catch Marcus staring out their bedroom window at the stars. His expression during these moments was different from his usual calm demeanor. There was a weight to his gaze, a depth of experience that seemed at odds with the simple life of a farmer. The communication system in their home was more sophisticated than necessary for agricultural work. Marcus had explained it was useful for monitoring weather patterns and market prices, but Zara had noticed it could access channels typically reserved for military or emergency services. When she'd asked about it, Marcus had said it came with the property, and he'd never bothered to have the extra features removed. Their marriage was happy, built on mutual respect and growing affection. Marcus was a gentle husband, patient with her Veltar customs and interested in learning about her culture. He'd even constructed a meditation garden in the traditional Veltar style, complete with the proper arrangement of stones and flowing water. The precision of his work suggested familiarity with alien cultural practices that went beyond casual study. As autumn approached and their first harvest season together drew near, Zara found herself more curious than ever about the quiet human she had married. There were layers to Marcus that she was only beginning to glimpse, depths that his modest farmer persona didn't quite conceal. She sensed that beneath his peaceful exterior lay experiences and capabilities that might surprise even her diplomatic training in reading different species. The question was whether she should pursue her curiosity or simply accept the contentment of their current life together. The first strange incident happened during the third week of harvest season. Zara was in the equipment barn, organizing shipping containers for their wheat crop, when she heard unfamiliar voices approaching the house. Through the barn's window, she could see 3 figures in dark clothing, walking up their access road with a purpose that seemed wrong for casual visitors. Marcus was in the far fields, checking the final sections ready for harvest. The communication device in the barn crackled to life, tuned to the channel they used for farm coordination. His voice came through calm and controlled, but with an underlying tone Zara had never heard before. "Zara, please go to the root cellar and stay there until I come for you." She wanted to ask questions, but something in his voice made her comply immediately. The root cellar was built into the hillside behind their house, originally designed for food storage but unusually well constructed with thick walls and a heavy door. As she descended the steps, Zara realized she could still hear what happened outside through the cellar's ventilation system. The visitors reached the house just as Marcus arrived from the fields. Zara pressed her ear to the ventilation grate, her Veltar hearing picking up the conversation clearly. "Marcus Chen," one of the strangers said. The way he pronounced the name carried recognition and respect that surprised Zara. She'd never heard anyone use Marcus's surname with such deference. "It's Marcus Harrison now," her husband replied, his voice carrying a dangerous edge she'd never heard before. "I'm not in the service anymore. The hegemony doesn't care about your retirement status, Ghost. They've put a bounty on your head that's got every hunter in 3 sectors interested." "Ghost?" Zara's forearms pressed against the cellar walls as she tried to process what she was hearing. Her quiet farmer husband had a military call sign and apparently enemies who were still hunting him. "How did you find me?" Marcus asked. "Wasn't easy. Took us 6 months to track the paper trail. New identity. Property purchased through shell companies, even altered biometric records. Professional work. But you made one mistake. What was that?" "You got married. Veltar marriage customs required genetic compatibility verification through the colonial registry. Your DNA hit a flag in the system." Zara's breathing quickened. Their marriage had exposed Marcus to whoever was hunting him. She felt responsible and afraid in equal measure. "So what now?" Marcus asked, his tone suggesting he already knew the answer. "Now you come with us. The hegemony wants you alive, but our contract doesn't specify what condition you need to be in." What followed next challenged everything Zara thought she knew about human physical capabilities. Through the ventilation system, she heard sounds of rapid movement, impacts that seemed too quick and precise to follow. There were brief cries of surprise and pain, The sound of something heavy hitting the ground multiple times, then silence. After several minutes, Marcus's voice came through the communication device again. "Zara, you can come up now. It's safe." She emerged from the root cellar to find Marcus standing in their front yard completely uninjured. The three strangers were unconscious, efficiently bound with materials from the farm equipment shed. Marcus was searching through their belongings with the methodical thoroughness of someone experienced in such activities. "Who were they?" Zara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Bounty hunters. Not very good ones, fortunately." Marcus's demeanor was already shifting back toward his usual calm, but Zara could see the difference now. The easy confidence in his movements, the way his eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, the precise efficiency with which he'd handled the threat. "They called you Ghost." Marcus paused in his search, meeting her gaze directly. "That was my call sign in special operations. I should have told you, but I hoped that part of my life was finished." "What did you do in special operations?" "Things that were necessary at the time," Marcus replied, resuming his examination of the hunter's equipment. "I was part of a unit that handled situations too sensitive for regular military intervention. Deep reconnaissance, extraction missions, elimination of high-value targets." The last phrase made Zara's skin shift to a pale yellow, the Veltar equivalent of a worried blush. "You were an assassin, sometimes, when the targets were people who needed to be stopped and couldn't be reached through conventional means." Marcus found what he was looking for, a communication device that he quickly disabled. The war with the hegemony created a lot of gray areas in ethics and legality. Zara had heard about the Terran hegemony conflict, of course. It had been one of the most brutal wars in recent galactic history, with both sides employing tactics that violated several interspecies conventions. The hegemony was a coalition of aggressive species that had attempted to expand their territory through conquest, rather than negotiation. Earth's response had been swift and devastating, but the details of how they'd achieved victory were still classified. "What did you do that made them put a bounty on you?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, considering how much to reveal. "I eliminated their supreme commander and most of his general staff during what was supposed to be a peace negotiation. It ended the war, but it also made me a lot of enemies who consider it a betrayal of diplomatic protocol." "Was it?" "Probably. But our intelligence indicated they were planning to use the negotiations as cover for a massive surprise attack on civilian targets. Sometimes you have to choose between following rules and saving lives." The unconscious bounty hunters were beginning to stir. Marcus moved with quick efficiency, administering what looked like medical injections that sent them back into deeper unconsciousness. "Neural suppressants," he explained, seeing Zara's questioning look. "They'll wake up in about 12 hours with no memory of the last few days. By then we'll have decided what to do next." "We?" Marcus stood, his expression serious but gentle. "This affects you now too, Zara. They know about our marriage, which means they know where to find me. I can't protect you and maintain our life here at the same time." "Protect me from what?" "From people who will use you to get to me. From organizations that consider anyone associated with Ghost to be a legitimate target." Marcus gestured toward their farm, their home, the life they'd built together. "From losing everything we've created here." Zara looked around at the peaceful setting that had become her sanctuary. The idea that their quiet life could be threatened by Marcus's past seemed surreal, but the evidence was unconscious in their front yard. "What are our options?" "I can activate old protocols, disappear again. Create a new identity somewhere else, but that would mean leaving you behind or asking you to abandon your own life to come with me. And if we stay, more hunters will come, better ones, and eventually they'll get lucky or we'll make a mistake." Marcus's expression softened slightly. "I never wanted this to touch you, Zara. I thought I'd covered my tracks well enough. The communication equipment in our house, the security measures. You've been prepared for this possibility all along." Marcus nodded. "I hoped I'd never need them, but yes. Old habits from a career where paranoia kept you alive." As they stood together in the afternoon sunlight, surrounded by the harvest they'd worked so hard to cultivate, Zara realized their marriage was about to be tested in ways she'd never imagined. The quiet farmer she'd fallen in love with was also a legendary soldier, whose past was catching up with them both. After securing the unconscious bounty hunters in the equipment shed, Marcus led Zara back to their house with a purposeful stride she'd never seen before. Every movement was economical and alert, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. This was not the leisurely pace of a farmer, but the careful awareness of someone accustomed to danger. "There are things I need to show you," Marcus said, heading directly to what Zara had always thought was a storage closet near their bedroom. Instead of opening the door normally, he pressed his palm against a section of the wall that looked identical to every other part. A soft chime sounded and a panel slid away to reveal a sophisticated biometric scanner. The scanner analyzed Marcus's retina, palm print, and something else Zara couldn't identify before the closet wall swung inward like a door. Behind it was a room she'd never known existed, filled with equipment that belonged in a military command center rather than a farmhouse. "How is this possible?" Zara asked, following him into the hidden space. "I've been in that closet dozens of times." "Holographic projection over the real wall," Marcus explained, activating lights that revealed the room's full contents. "The storage shelves you saw were real, just not in this location. The house has several hidden spaces built into the original construction. The room contained more advanced technology than Zara had seen outside of major space stations. Banks of monitors showed feeds from cameras she hadn't known were there, displaying views of their entire property and the surrounding area. Communication equipment with quantum encryption capabilities, weapons that looked both alien and terrifyingly efficient, and in one corner, a suit of armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "This is what I wore during operations," Marcus said, noticing her stare. "Adaptive camouflage, integrated life support, enhanced strength and speed amplification. It's designed to make one human equivalent to a small military unit." Zara approached the armor carefully. Up close she could see it wasn't just protective gear, but a sophisticated system of interconnected components. The helmet alone contained more processing power than most personal computers. "How long have you been preparing for this?" "Since the day I arrived on Haven's Rest," Marcus replied, bringing up displays on the monitor systems. "I hoped I'd never need any of it, but my training doesn't allow for hoping without planning." The monitors showed tactical assessments of their property, escape routes, defensive positions, and threat analysis programs that were constantly updating, everything she'd attributed to Marcus's farming instincts. His attention to detail, his knowledge of the surrounding area, his seemingly random modifications to their home systems had actually been security preparations. "The meditation garden you built for me," Zara said, pieces falling into place. "It's positioned to provide clear sight lines to all approaches to the house. Among other things, the rock arrangements contain sensor nodes. The water flow masks electronic surveillance. The traditional Veltar design elements also happen to be excellent for defensive purposes." Marcus activated a program that displayed a three-dimensional map of their property and the surrounding region. Red indicators marked the locations where more bounty hunters might approach, yellow zones showed probable surveillance positions, and green lines traced the fastest routes away from the farm. "How many more will come?" Zara asked, hard to say. "The bounty is substantial enough to attract professionals, but word hasn't spread widely yet. We might have a few days before the next wave arrives." Marcus pulled up files on the captured hunters' equipment. These three were freelancers working with outdated information. "The next group will be better prepared. Can we call for help?" "Colonial authorities? Terran military?" Marcus shook his head. "My status is complicated. Officially, Ghost never existed. The operations I conducted were classified beyond normal military channels. If I contact authorities, I'll spend years in legal proceedings while my enemies have free access to you. So we run. We could. I have identities prepared, resources hidden on multiple worlds, safe houses that even my former superiors don't know about." Marcus turned to face her directly. "But running means abandoning everything you've built here. Your life, your career, your connections to Veltar culture. And it means living with the constant possibility that we'll be found again." Zara studied the tactical displays, trying to understand the full scope of what Marcus was showing her. The preparation was extensive, but it was also defensive. He'd built systems designed to protect and escape, not to fight. "There's another option," she said slowly. "You could stop running," meaning, "You've been hiding from this problem for 3 years, but you're not the same person you were during the war. You have resources now, allies, a life worth fighting for." Zara gestured toward the monitors showing their peaceful farm. "Maybe it's time to end this permanently." Marcus was quiet, considering her words. That would mean going on the offensive, tracking down whoever's coordinating the hunt, eliminating the threat at its source. It's dangerous and it's probably illegal under current galactic law. More illegal than what they're doing. Legal definitions matter less than practical consequences. If I resume active operations, I risk becoming the person I was during the war. That person was necessary then, but he's someone you might not recognize or want to live with. Zara moved closer to Marcus, her forearms reaching out to touch his shoulders. I fell in love with a man who protects what matters to him. Whether he does that by growing crops or by eliminating threats doesn't change who he is inside. You might feel differently when you see what Ghost was capable. For it to show me, Marcus activated another program, and the monitors filled with mission files marked with classifications Zara couldn't read. Images of tactical operations, personnel files, target assessments. The scope of Marcus's former activities was vast and complex. Counterintelligence operations behind enemy lines, assassination of key military and political leaders, extraction of captured personnel from secure facilities, disruption of supply chains and communication networks. Marcus's voice was flat, professional. In 6 years of operations, Ghost was credited with shortening the war by an estimated 18 months and saving approximately 2 million civilian lives. And the cost? 743 confirmed kills. Destruction of billions of credits worth of enemy infrastructure. Complete destabilization of 3 planetary governments. Marcus met her gaze. I was very good at my job, Zara, too good, according to some people. The files showed commendations from Terran Command, condemnations from galactic peace organizations, and bounties posted by surviving members of the hegemony leadership. Marcus had been simultaneously honored as a war hero and denounced as a war criminal, depending on which authority was making the judgment. The people hunting you now, Zara said, studying the bounty postings, they're not seeking justice. They're seeking revenge, which makes them predictable in some ways, but also more dangerous. They're not constrained by legal protocols or rules of engagement. A soft chime from the monitoring system interrupted their conversation. One of the perimeter sensors had detected movement on the access road leading to their farm. Marcus quickly pulled up the relevant camera feed. A single vehicle was approaching, moving slowly and openly. As it got closer, the identification systems tagged it as belonging to their neighbor, Bill Henderson. Probably coming to check on us after seeing the strangers earlier, Marcus said, but his hand moved instinctively toward a weapon mounting on the wall. Or he's been compromised, Zara observed, watching how Marcus's posture had shifted into combat readiness. Possible. Bill's a good man, but not everyone can resist the right kind of pressure. As they watched Bill's vehicle approach their house, Zara realized she was seeing Marcus as he truly was for the first time. The farmer had been real but incomplete. This version, alert, dangerous, calculating multiple scenarios simultaneously, was equally genuine. Bill Henderson's vehicle stopped in front of their house, but something was wrong. The elderly farmer, who usually moved with the slow deliberation of someone who'd spent decades working the land, was sitting stiffly upright, his hands gripping the steering controls with obvious tension. Through the command center's enhanced surveillance, Marcus could see perspiration on Bill's forehead despite the cool autumn air. He's compromised, Marcus said quietly, reaching for the armor system, but probably coerced rather than turned. How can you tell? Body language. Bill's scared but not hostile. If he'd been bribed or convinced to betray us, he'd be trying to appear normal. This looks like someone with a gun to his family's head. Marcus began the rapid process of donning his combat armor, each piece clicking into place with mechanical precision. As the systems activated, his appearance transformed from that of a peaceful farmer into something that belonged in Zara's worst nightmares about the war. Stay here and monitor communications, Marcus instructed, his voice now filtered through the armor systems. If this goes badly, there's an escape tunnel behind that panel. It leads to a bunker 2 kilometers away with supplies and a ship. What about you? I'll be fine. This is what I was trained for. Marcus moved through their house with fluid silence, exiting through a rear door Zara hadn't realized was designed for tactical use. On the monitors, she watched him circle wide around their property, using terrain features and planted cover to approach Bill's position from an unexpected angle. Bill sat in his vehicle for several more minutes before finally getting out and walking toward the front door. His movements were jerky, unnatural. As he raised his hand to knock, Marcus appeared behind him like a shadow. one armored hand covering Bill's mouth while the other disabled what looked like a communication device attached to his collar. "Easy, Bill." Marcus's voice came through the comm system as he led their neighbor away from the house. "How many are holding your family?" "3, Bill whispered, his relief at seeing Marcus obvious. "They've got Sarah and the kids at our place. Said they'd kill them if I didn't get you to come outside unarmed. Professional setup? I don't know. They knew too much about our routines, about the community. One of them talked like military, but the others seemed more like criminals." Marcus guided Bill to a position behind the equipment shed where they couldn't be observed from the road. "Mixed team, then. Probably hired locals with an experienced coordinator. Did they give you any specific instructions beyond getting me outside? I'm supposed to signal them once you're in the open. They're watching through scopes from the tree line north of your property." Zara used the command center's systems to focus cameras on the northern tree line. Enhanced imaging revealed 3 concealed positions among the foliage, with what appeared to be high-powered weapons aimed at their house. "Marcus," she said through the comm system, "I've got visual on 3 sniper positions. Range approximately 800 meters. Copy that. Bill, I need you to walk back to your vehicle and drive away normally. Don't signal them. I'll handle your family situation after I deal with the threat here." "You can't take on 3 snipers alone," Bill protested. "Yes, I can." The certainty in Marcus's voice sent a chill through Zara. This wasn't boasting or false confidence. It was a simple statement of capability from someone who had done similar things many times before. Marcus moved back into the tree line, becoming invisible even to their advanced surveillance systems. For several minutes, Zara lost track of his position entirely. The waiting was torture. Watching the sniper positions while knowing her husband was somewhere in the woods, hunting people who were hunting him. The first indication of contact was when one of the sniper positions simply went silent. No sound, no visible activity, just the absence of the subtle movements that had marked an occupied position. 2 minutes later, the second position went dark. The third sniper, realizing his team was being eliminated, abandoned his concealment and began moving through the woods with obvious panic. Marcus appeared on the surveillance feeds, pursuing the fleeing sniper with inhuman speed and silence. The armor's enhancement systems allowed him to move through dense forest without disturbing a branch or making a sound. When he reached his target, the encounter was over in seconds. "Threat neutralized," Marcus reported, moving to secure the Henderson property. "Wait," Zara said, studying the tactical displays. "There's something wrong with this setup." "Explain." 6 people to capture 1 target? 3 to threaten the Henderson family, 3 more for Overwatch? That's either massive overkill or it's a distraction. Marcus paused in his movement toward the Henderson farm. "You're right. This is too elaborate for a simple bounty collection. What am I missing?" Zara ran analysis programs on the captured bounty hunters' equipment, searching for details they'd overlooked earlier. "The communication device you disabled from the first group. It wasn't just for coordination. It was uploading data continuously." "What kind of data?" "Biometric readings, tactical assessments, detailed surveillance of our property and capabilities." The analysis results appeared on the monitors, showing a comprehensive intelligence-gathering operation. Someone wanted to know exactly what Ghost was capable of in his current situation. "Field testing. They're not trying to capture me today. They're gathering information for a larger operation." "And the Henderson family? Bait to force me into revealing capabilities and equipment." "Damn." Marcus's voice carried frustration and respect for the enemy's planning. "This is professional work. Military-grade intelligence gathering disguised as bounty hunting. Who has the resources for something like this?" Short list. Hegemony intelligence services, if any, survived the war. Corporate military contractors with grudges or... Marcus paused, checking something on his armor systems. "Someone from my old unit who's gone rogue." The possibility hung in the air like a toxic cloud. If someone with Marcus's training and knowledge of his methods was coordinating the hunt, their situation was far more dangerous than simple bounty hunters. "I need to reach the Henderson farm before they realize their surveillance team is compromised," Marcus said, resuming movement. "But this changes everything. We're not just dealing with revenge seekers anymore. What do you need me to do?" "Start preparing for evacuation, but also begin analyzing what we've learned about their methods. If this is a former colleague, I'll need to anticipate strategies I helped develop." Zara watched Marcus disappear into the forest, heading toward what might be a trap, designed by someone who knew exactly how Ghost operated. For the first time since the crisis began, she felt truly afraid, not just for their immediate safety, but for what Marcus might have to become to protect them both. The monitoring system showed multiple alerts as more vehicles approached Haven's Rest from different directions. Whatever was happening at their farm was just the beginning of a much larger operation. "Marcus," she said into the comm system, "we have multiple contacts approaching the colony. This isn't just about us anymore." "Understood. They're forcing a larger engagement, probably hoping to draw out any support network I might have." His voice carried grim determination. Time to see if Ghost still remembers how to fight a real war. Marcus reached the Henderson farm in 12 minutes, moving through terrain that would have taken a normal person an hour to traverse. The armor's systems provided enhanced navigation and threat assessment, but what he found at the Henderson property confirmed his worst fears. The house was empty. Not just abandoned, but professionally cleared. No signs of struggle, no indication of hasty departure. The family had been moved efficiently and quietly, which meant whoever was coordinating this operation had significant resources and experience. "Zara, I need a full scan of colony communications for the past week," Marcus said, beginning his own search of the property for clues. "Look for any transmissions that might indicate advanced planning." "Already running the analysis," Zara replied. "I'm seeing patterns that suggest someone's been coordinating with local contacts for at least 10 days. Marcus found what he was looking for in Bill's workshop, a military-grade communication device hidden inside what appeared to be farm equipment. The technology was Terran Special Operations Standard, the kind of gear that wasn't available to bounty hunters or civilian contractors. "We have a problem," he said, photographing the device with his armor's systems. "This is TSO equipment. Current generation, meaning someone with active access to Terran Special Operations resources is running this operation. Either they're official, which would be very bad, or someone's stolen classified equipment, which would be worse." The communication device activated suddenly, displaying a message that made Marcus's blood run cold. A single line of text appeared. "Hello, Marcus. Time to finish what we started. Prophet. Marcus hadn't heard that call sign in 3 years, but he remembered the man who'd carried it vividly. David Walsh, his former team leader. The most ruthless operator Marcus had ever worked with. If Prophet was alive and hunting him, everything about their situation had just become exponentially more dangerous. "Zara, initiate emergency protocols immediately. Begin evacuation procedures for the entire colony." "The entire colony? Marcus, there are 8,000 people here. Prophet doesn't care about collateral damage. If he's willing to target civilians to get to me, everyone here is at risk." Marcus was already moving back toward their property, but at a much faster pace now. "Contact Colonial Administration and tell them we have a credible terrorist threat." "Under whose authority?" "Mine. Authorization code Alpha 77 Beta Ghost." That should get their attention. As Marcus raced through the forest, his armor systems were analyzing everything about Prophet's message. The communication protocols, the encryption methods, the transmission source. All of it pointed to someone with comprehensive knowledge of both Marcus's capabilities and his psychological profile. Prophet had been Marcus's mentor during his early years in special operations. A brilliant tactician who'd taught Marcus most of what he knew about covert warfare, but also a man who'd become increasingly unstable as the war progressed. When the conflict ended, Prophet had argued for continuing operations against former enemies, believing that true peace required the complete elimination of potential threats. "Marcus, I'm getting reports from around the colony," Zara said, her voice tight with worry. "Multiple families are missing. At least 30 people unaccounted for in the past few hours. He's using them as leverage. Prophet knows I won't abandon civilians, so he's forcing me to engage on his terms." Marcus reached the edge of their property and paused, studying the tactical situation. "Are you ready to evacuate?" "The evacuation tunnel leads to your backup bunker, correct?" "Yes, from there you can reach the emergency ship and get off-world." "And you?" "I'm going to end this. Prophet won't stop with just me. He'll keep targeting anyone I care about, anyone who might give me a reason to stay hidden." Marcus's voice carried a resolve that Zara had never heard before. "But I need to know you're safe first. I'm not leaving you to face this alone. This isn't a discussion, Zara. Prophet is the most dangerous person I've ever encountered. He trained me, which means he knows how I think, how I fight, what my weaknesses are. The only advantage I have is that he doesn't know about you, your capabilities, your intelligence, your value as a partner rather than just someone to protect. Zara studied the tactical displays, seeing the scope of Prophet's operation. Multiple teams were now converging on Haven's Rest from different directions. Vehicle movements, communication intercepts, and satellite imagery all pointed to a coordinated assault involving at least 50 operatives. "This is a full military operation," she said. "He's not just hunting you. He's making a statement." Prophet always believed in overwhelming force. "He's showing whoever put the bounty on me that he can deliver results they can't imagine." Marcus checked his armor's weapon systems, ensuring everything was fully charged and operational. "But he's also given me an opportunity." "How?" "By making this big, he's made it visible. Colonial authorities will respond, probably with military support. That means I won't be fighting alone, and it means there will be official records of what happens here. You're going to expose Prophet's operation. I'm going to destroy it. But first I need to rescue the hostages. Prophet will have them centralized somewhere defensible, probably with kill switches if his demands aren't met." Marcus activated systems he hadn't used since the war, full combat protocols that transformed his armor from protective gear into a weapon platform. The change was visible even through the monitoring systems as weapon pods extended from his back and arms, turning him into a walking arsenal. "Zara, I need you to analyze everything we know about Prophet's methods and predict where he would establish a command center. Look for locations within 20 kilometers that offer good communications, defensible positions, and space for holding prisoners." Already on it. "There are 3 possibilities." Zara highlighted locations on the tactical map: the old mining complex, the abandoned colonial admin building, or the weather monitoring station on Highland Ridge. "Highland Ridge, it's where I would set up. Good sight lines, multiple escape routes, and easy to defend." Marcus began moving toward the ridge, but his pace was different now. Not the careful stealth of earlier, but the purposeful advance of someone preparing for direct confrontation. "Marcus, there's something else. I've been monitoring galactic news feeds, and there are reports of similar operations on 3 other worlds in the past month, all targeting former Special Operations personnel. Prophet's not just hunting me. He's hunting everyone from our unit who survived the war." Marcus paused, the implications sinking in. He's trying to eliminate witnesses to whatever he's planning next, or recruiting them. "No, Prophet doesn't recruit. He eliminates variables." Marcus resumed his advance, but now with the knowledge that he wasn't just fighting for his own survival, or even for Zara's safety. This is about unfinished business from the war. As they spoke, Zara's analysis programs detected something that changed everything about their situation. Hidden in the communication intercepts was a message fragment that revealed Prophet's true objective. "Marcus, stop. You need to hear this." She played the intercepted transmission through the comm system. Prophet's voice, older but unmistakably confident. "Phase 1 complete. Ghost is responding predictably. Proceed with Hegemony Resurrection Protocol." Hegemony Resurrection? Marcus stopped moving entirely. "That's impossible. We destroyed their leadership structure completely." "Apparently not completely enough," Zara said quietly. "Prophet isn't working alone. He's working for the enemy." The revelation that Prophet was working with hegemony survivors changed everything about Marcus's tactical approach. This wasn't just a personal vendetta or even a professional elimination. It was an act of treason that threatened the fragile peace that had held for 3 years. "Zara, I need you to transmit everything we've learned to Terran Command immediately," Marcus said, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to making decisions that affected millions of lives. "Use emergency protocols. Authorization Ghost Alpha Final. That authorization code doesn't exist in any database I can access. It will when they verify it. It's a dead man's switch I set up before retiring. If I ever had to use it, it meant the war was starting again." While Zara prepared the transmission, Marcus studied the Highland Ridge position through his armor's advanced reconnaissance systems. What he saw confirmed his worst fears about Prophet's capabilities and resources. The weather station had been converted into a fortified command center with defensive positions that would require significant force to overcome. More troubling was the technology visible in the surveillance feeds. Energy shields, automated defense systems and communication arrays that were definitely not of Terran origin. Prophet had access to advanced hegemony equipment, which meant the survivors he was working with had preserved more than just personnel from their defeat. Marcus, the transmission is ready, but I'm detecting jamming across all military frequencies, Zara reported. Prophet's blocking external communications. Then we do this the hard way. I go in, eliminate the threat, and extract the hostages. Once the jamming stops, we can call for support. Against those defensive positions? Even with your armor, the odds are terrible. Marcus smiled grimly, though Zara couldn't see it through his helmet. Prophet taught me that impossible odds just mean you need to change the rules of engagement. What does that mean? It means I stop trying to be the farmer you married and remember why they called me Ghost. Marcus activated systems in his armor that he'd hoped never to use again. Combat enhancement protocols that pushed human physiology beyond safe limits. Tactical analysis programs that calculated casualty probabilities in real time. And weapon systems designed to eliminate multiple targets with minimal ammunition expenditure. The transformation was visible even through the monitoring equipment. Marcus's movements became fluid and precise in ways that seemed to defy normal human limitations. He began his approach to Highland Ridge not as someone hoping to rescue hostages, but as a weapon designed to eliminate specific threats with mathematical precision. Beginning assault, Marcus reported, his voice now carrying the flat professional tone that Zara recognized from his mission files. This was Ghost, not Marcus the farmer. The first defensive perimeter fell before its sensors could register a threat. Marcus moved through automated systems like they were standing still, using knowledge of their programming weaknesses that only someone who'd helped develop such systems would possess. Guardian drones designed to stop infantry assault were systematically disabled with surgical precision. How is he doing that? Zara heard Prophet's voice through intercepted communications. Those defenses were designed to stop him specifically. Sir, he's not fighting like the Marcus Chen we profiled, another voice replied. He's using tactics we don't have countermeasures for. Marcus was doing something Prophet hadn't anticipated. He was fighting like himself, but with 3 years of additional experience and the motivation of someone protecting the life he'd built, rather than just completing a mission. The combination made him deadlier than he'd ever been during the war. The second perimeter lasted longer, but not much. Marcus used the facility's own defensive systems against itself, turning automated weapons on their controllers and converting shield generators into improvised explosives. Each breach brought him closer to the command center where Prophet waited with the hostages. Ghost, I know you can hear me. Prophet's voice came through external speakers. Let's discuss terms. Marcus paused just outside the final defensive line, using his armor's systems to scan the command center's interior. Prophet had positioned the 30 missing colonists in a central area where any assault would endanger them. Classic hostage protocol designed to force negotiation rather than direct action. What terms? Marcus replied, his voice amplified through the facility's communication system. Simple. You stand down, surrender yourself, and the civilians go free. You resist and they die while you watch. Counteroffer, Marcus said, beginning to move again. You release the hostages, surrender your hegemony contacts, and I'll make sure your death is quick. Prophet's laughter echoed through the facility. You haven't changed, have you? Still thinking you can save everyone? No, Marcus replied, reaching the final barrier between him and the command center. I've changed considerably. I used to try to save everyone. Now I just save the people who matter. What happened next demonstrated why Marcus had been considered the most effective special operations soldier in Terran military history. Instead of attempting a direct assault that would endanger the hostages, he implemented a strategy that Prophet had never seen before because it required capabilities that normal humans didn't possess. Marcus used his armor's advanced systems to map the exact electrical grid of the facility, identify the specific power sources for Prophet's equipment, and calculate the precise timing needed to create a window of opportunity. Then he began systematically overloading systems in a sequence that would disable defensive capabilities without compromising life support for the hostages. Impossible, Prophet said, watching his carefully planned operation fall apart around him. You can't possibly be calculating those overload sequences that quickly. 3 years of farming taught me patience, Marcus replied, continuing his methodical dismantling of Prophet's advantages. 3 years of marriage taught me precision. 3 years of peace taught me what's worth fighting for. The final stage of Marcus's assault was a masterpiece of tactical planning executed with inhuman speed. As Prophet systems failed in cascade, Marcus entered the command center through a route that Prophet's defensive planning hadn't accounted for, straight through the reinforced, while using his armor's maximum power output. The confrontation between Marcus and Prophet lasted less than 30 seconds. Prophet was skilled, experienced, and equipped with advanced weapons. But he was fighting someone who had learned everything Prophet could teach and then continued growing for 3 more years. When it ended, Prophet lay unconscious but alive, his equipment disabled and his communication systems seized. The hostages were secured, the facility was under Marcus's control, and the jamming field was down. Marcus, Colonial Defense Forces are responding, Zara reported. ETA 15 minutes. Good. Have them prepare detention facilities for hegemony war criminals. We're going to need to interrogate Prophet about his contacts and whatever resurrection protocol involves. As Marcus began securing the facility and ensuring the hostages' safety, Zara realized she was seeing the complete picture of who her husband really was. Not just the farmer, not just the soldier, but someone who could transform instantly between peaceful civilian and legendary warrior, depending on what the situation required. Is it over? She asked. This part is, Marcus replied, his voice already shifting back toward the gentler tone she knew. But Prophet was working for someone, and they'll know their operation here failed. We'll need to decide what kind of life we want going forward. What do you mean? I mean Ghost is officially out of retirement now. The question is whether that's temporary or permanent. 3 days after the Highland Ridge incident, Zara sat in their kitchen watching Marcus prepare breakfast with the same calm precision he'd always shown. The difference was that now she understood the true source of his steady competence. Every movement, from cracking eggs to monitoring the stove's temperature, reflected the same systematic approach that had made him legendary in military circles. The Colonial Defense Forces had thoroughly debriefed both of them, though Marcus's testimony had been classified at levels that required special authorization. What Zara learned during those sessions was that her husband's reputation extended far beyond what she'd imagined. Officers who outranked entire planetary governments deferred to his tactical assessments. Prophet's talking, Marcus said, setting her breakfast in front of her. Turns out the hegemony survivors are more organized than we thought. They've been rebuilding systematically, targeting former special operations personnel to eliminate potential threats before launching their comeback. How many survivors? Enough to be dangerous if they remain coordinated. Maybe 2,000 military personnel, plus support networks on a dozen worlds. Marcus joined her at the table, but Zara noticed he positioned himself where he could see all approaches to their house. Old habits that would probably never completely fade. And your former teammates? Safer now. Terran Command is implementing protection protocols based on what we learned here. Prophet won't be the only former soldier they try to turn or eliminate. A soft chime from their communication system announced an incoming priority message. Marcus activated the display, revealing Admiral Sarah Chen, no relation, despite the shared surname, the current director of Terran Special Operations. Ghost, the Admiral said, without preamble. We need to talk. Admiral, Marcus replied, his posture shifting into military formality. I assume this is about reactivation orders. Among other things, the intelligence you provided about hegemony resurrection protocol has changed our assessment of galactic security threats. We're implementing Operation Clean Slate, systematic elimination of hegemony remnant forces before they can consolidate, and you want Ghost to lead. I want the most effective special operations soldier in Terran. History to finish what he started 3 years. Huggo. Admiral Chen's expression was serious but not unkind. I also understand that you've built a life worth protecting, so I'm offering you a choice. Marcus glanced at Zara, who had been following the conversation with growing understanding of what was being asked of them. What kind of choice? She asked, speaking for the first time since the call began. Mrs. Chen Harrison, the Admiral said, acknowledging her with genuine respect. Your husband can return to active duty with full rank and command authority for Operation Clean Slate. Or he can remain civilian with consultant status, providing intelligence and strategic planning without direct field involvement. Time frame, Marcus asked. Clean slate will take approximately 18 months to complete. After that, the threat should be eliminated permanently. And if I decline both options, then you live with the knowledge that hegemony forces will continue hunting you and anyone associated with you until they succeed, or you eliminate them. Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. Marcus, there's no going back to complete anonymity after Highland Ridge. Too many people know Ghost is active again. Zara studied her husband's face, seeing him weigh options that would determine the course of their entire future together. The quiet farmer who'd won her heart was also a weapon that could end galactic conflicts. The question was which role would define their marriage going forward. Can I have some time to discuss this with my wife? Marcus asked. 24 hours. After that, we proceed with or without your participation. The transmission ended, leaving them alone with a decision that felt impossibly large. Zara used her forearms to clear breakfast while Marcus stared out the window at the fields they'd cultivated together. What do you want to do? She asked. I want to stay here with you and grow crops and pretend the rest of the galaxy doesn't exist, Marcus replied honestly. But I also know that's not really an option anymore. Because of the threat to us personally, because of what I learned from Prophet. The hegemony survivors aren't just seeking revenge. They're planning to restart the war, and they believe they can win this time because most people think the threat is over. Zara joined him at the window, looking out at the peaceful landscape that had become their sanctuary. How many people would die if you don't help stop them? Millions. Maybe tens of millions. Marcus turned to face her directly. But that's not your responsibility, Zara. You didn't choose to marry a soldier. You chose to marry a farmer. I chose to marry you, she corrected. All of you. The farmer and the soldier and everything in between. Even if it means 18 months of me being Ghost instead of Marcus? Zara considered the question carefully. During the Highland Ridge operation, she'd seen Marcus transform into someone she barely recognized. Deadly, precise, emotionally distant. But she'd also seen him risk everything to save people he'd never met, simply because it was the right thing to do. I have a counter-proposal, she said finally. I'm listening. You take the consultant position, provide strategic planning and intelligence but not field operations, and I come with you. Marcus started to protest, but Zara continued before he could speak. I'm not asking to become a soldier, but I am a diplomatic translator with security clearance and experience in interspecies relations. If you're planning operations that involve multiple worlds and species, you'll need someone who understands the political implications. It would be dangerous, less dangerous than staying here while you're off fighting wars, and I'm wondering if you're coming home. Zara moved closer to him, her forearms encircling his shoulders. We're partners, Marcus. In farming, in marriage, and now in this. You're sure? I'm sure that I'd rather face whatever comes next together than watch you carry this burden alone. Marcus was quiet for several minutes, holding her while he processed the implications of her proposal. Finally, he activated the communication system and sent a message to Admiral Chen. Ghost accepting consultant position with conditions. Partner accompanies for diplomatic and strategic support. Expect comprehensive counter-proposal within 12 hours. I love you, Zara said, watching their peaceful farm through the window and knowing their life there was about to change forever. I love you too, Marcus replied. Both versions of you. Both versions? The quiet translator who married a farmer, and the strategic analyst who just volunteered to help plan military operations. Marcus smiled, the expression carrying both affection and respect. I'm apparently not the only one with hidden depths. As they stood together planning their new future, the morning sun illuminated fields that would soon be tended by automated systems, while their owners worked to prevent another galactic war. The peaceful life they'd built on Haven's Rest wasn't ending. It was evolving into something neither of them had expected, but both were ready to embrace. The transformation, from farmer and translator to strategic consultants, wouldn't be easy, but they would face it the same way they'd faced everything else in their marriage, as partners who understood that sometimes protecting the life you've built requires temporarily becoming someone different than who you are. Ghost was out of retirement, but this time he wouldn't be working alone.